This
Says it's
conference will
recording.
now be recorded.
It's a little on the delayed side today. Well, welcome to this week's webinar. We have a fun-filled cast of people ready to answer questions. So if anybody's got something, we can start off. If not, this is going to be a wonderful BS session. And there's crickets already. I love it.
Let's see.
I'll pick on Sam. Sam, you got anything for us? Any questions this week?
2 + 2 still equals 4, right?
I hope so.
Only on Wednesday.
Oh,
But 2.5 and 2.5 equals 5. So now what? Now you're in trouble.
That's only on Thursdays.
Luckily, today's Thursday.
Oh, then yes. Exactly.
Oh, hello, Mrs. Grumpy with the video on.
hi. I'm in the house today, so I can.
Yeah, she's not sitting to the left of me in here.
Yeah.
It gets a little interesting. I'm telling you, Myers, you're going to keep pulling your hair and you're going to wind up looking like this.
Right? It falls out all the time. That's why I have it long, so it covers up the missing spots.
When your forehead meets your ears, it's time to let it go.
So what's new with I don't know, you, Lois? How you doing?
I'm here.
It's actually been a slow week.
Yeah, I was getting ready to say things have been a little slow. So, that's all right. We had an order come in today. Tommy's just got to glue a magnet in a thing and then we can get it shipped out for tomorrow. Yeah. It's hot. It's been really hot here.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, it's been hot all in the Northeast.
yeah, like a big, huge area. And I think now the bubble has shrunk some, but we're still like right in the middle of it.
Well,
Yeah,
I'm always
94 on the outskirts of Waco, Texas. 94.
Yeah, no, thank you.
Yeah, but that's Texas.
Well,
Yeah.
Hell
like
is
90.
normally hot.
yeah, when we lived in Texas and we'd walk out the front door, it was like opening the oven to go outside. But then when we lived in Alabama, it was like, why'd we even bother taking a shower? Because it's so humid outside.
Yeah, after I take a shower, I'm in for the night. That's it.
Pretty
You know,
much.
I soaked 2 shirts at 9 o'clock this morning cutting grass, just sitting.
Yeah, 10 o'clock. Yep.
Oh, and Myers, you are absolutely correct. ASA prints beautifully.
Yeah, it does, don't it?
I was when we pulled the thing off the build plate, I was pretty amazed.
Oh, I don't know how this is going to work out.
Oh God.
I don't know if you'd call it what kind of failure you'd call this, but this was a birdhouse. Granted, it's all gray, so it makes it a little bit harder to see. But this was a
Oh, a PLA print.
print that died in the heat. I don't know if it'll
Yep.
focus.
Because of the heat, it's melted. Okay.
Yeah, it's not
Went
gonna.
a little flaccid, huh?
Yeah,
Yeah.
little bit. I had to get a
Like-
picture of it.
I do have a question here. Nova 51 Plus, other than cutting, what would the addition of a high air or a compressor do for me that low, I guess that's supposed to be low pressure, does not? I can tell you that adding a little bit more air helps with cuts amazingly well. As far as engraving wise, there really isn't much difference. You get enough PSI coming out of the little pump.
Yeah, it's really for the thicker cuts. Sometimes even, it can help 3 mil look better or whatever, but really for the thicker cuts that you're using a 4-inch lens for.
That and the typically you have a larger tank or a tank, and it doesn't run nearly as often, so it is quieter too.
Well, yeah, mine's quieter because it's outside.
Yeah, you can put the tank outside.
Yeah.
You
Yeah,
tried
that
that with
little
Tommy?
I tried what?
putting you
Putting Tommy
outside.
outside.
I
When he
did
gets
that
loud.
earlier.
As you start, I guess, when you start looking at a compressor for, if you're not really doing a lot of engrave or a lot of cutting, then the air pump is fine. When you start adding multiple lasers to your shop, and then you have multiple little pumps running, it gets a little annoying with the sound. It gets for me, it does. And you got to worry about how hot they're getting, where they're sitting. So the more lasers that you add to your shop, having one air compressor piped in through all of it that's big enough to maintain them all, is a fantastic idea. But
And
again,
that's the key to make sure that it's big enough, that the tank on it is big enough. Because when I had my first laser, I had a much smaller air compressor hooked up to it. And one day I was cutting Christmas ornaments and stuff, and I killed it because it overheated. And Tommy jumped on it and very quickly got me piped into the large compressor, which I then stole when we set up all my stuff in my big shop. So
Yeah, and for cutting, I would say anything over 3/8 is like my point of saying you need air.
okay, 3/8 makes sense. Hell, sometimes even higher air on a 1/4 inch makes it
Oh
look a
yeah,
little better.
oh yeah,
it
it'll
can,
clean
it
it
can
up.
give it a nicer look.
Does Thunder have a blemish or refurbished stock of products available for customer purchases? So if there are refurbs, they are in Quitman, Texas, and they are pickup only. You have to
Not
pick up in
necessarily.
person. Oh, okay. Go ahead, Chris. If
Yeah,
something's
they'll
shipped.
ship some of them. The sales team will let you know which ones they can ship. But yeah, they're in Texas.
And as an end user, we have purchased several of those machines, and some were already refurbished, and some Tommy did the refurb on them. And we have had zero problems. Those machines are built like tanks. Little things here and there. It's really not a problem on those machines, even when they are quite literally the crate is dropped off of a lift gate. Those machines are just champs.
So yes, you can contact the sales team, and they will let you know what's available and what's willing to be shipped.
Yep. So after the second week of August, they'll have an updated list of available machines. So look around, what, August 12th? No, not August 12th.
It should be the second week.
Scroll, calendar, scroll. Yeah, so yeah, August 11th would be a good day to contact them.
I know a while back, last time y'all went down to Quitman, they made a post about what they had that was available. Um,
Yeah, Loco had done a pretty good live walking around.
yeah, that was absolutely fantastic, especially because a lot of people don't know that that's a possibility for them. Um, so I know, everyone's going to be busy with Ignite, but if you can do another video,
Yeah, depending on what's there, I'll do another video. But yeah, I mean, besides some machines having scratches, there's really not a lot wrong with them. We go through the entire thing, make sure they work right. align, square the gantry, replace panels if we need to. So it's typically like buying a brand new machine.
George, I will add to your comment there about a 26 gallon from Harbor Freight. For your commercial and what you're looking at, I would seriously look at like a 60 or an 80 gallon. You can even build a cute little bit framework around it, put some insulation if you don't want to hear it, which will help. But as you grow bigger, you will find that that 26 gallon just isn't going to cut it.
And the
Especially
larger
if you're
tank's
looking
not
at
going to have to kick on as often as well.
just my thoughts.
What's ours, 60?
Yeah, it's a 60 gallon, 220 volt. We're running the, what is that, the Porter cable from, damn it, Tractor Supply. And so far so good. I mean, it ran my power hammer before we had the lasers, and it runs everything here and then some.
Yeah, now I've got it piped into the 3 Novas. You know, plus it can do other things as well. And I've not had any problems with it.
But depending on your heat, humidity, and everything else temperature wise, you may also want to look at investing in a refrigerated air dryer for your system. Because I mean, I'm with here, we're draining water frequently, so you just gonna have to take your time with that commercial setup. And I don't want to say do it right one time, but do it right the first time, and then
Even with all the water separators in the line, we had them, you know, before every machine. We had it when it first comes in. It wasn't enough because my air compressor is outside and the massive temperature change. We had to go with that refrigerated air dryer, which can be spendy, but it's worth it if it saves your lenses and the frustration and everything else.
I mean, considering we're still working on a 3.5-year-old lens.
Mm-hmm.
Any other questions out there? I like it. I can actually see the chat today and pay attention. Welcome, Danny. So hopefully that'll answer your questions, you know, or help you, George. Other than the canned training on the Thunder site about making jigs, you have recommendations on any other videos or how to? Specifically interested in a refined way to set and replicate measurements faster. I guess with jigs and fixtures, it all depends on what you're trying to do. If you're, you know, doing cozies or keychains, then yeah, making your jigs, pretty much a jig is a jig is a jig. You make it, pin it in place, make sure your origin's right, and you should be able to rinse and repeat. There's like we use the pins and corners so that, you know, we set our origin, and if we have to do 100 things, it's just we drop it back in the corner and go to town. Whether it's cutting or engraving, we had to cut 4x8 sheets of plywood. So she even set pens up as kind of an alignment jig so that we knew, you know, where to slide things in.
I can't believe it took me so long to think about putting 2 pins there to help with squaring things up. I can't believe I've done it this many times, and this was the first time I thought to do that. But it definitely helps save time with those massive sheets of plywood lining it up.
So business cards specifically, without a rotary, are we talking about with the Aurora, with the Auroras or with the Novas? If you're looking at business cards without a rotary, with the see,
Yeah, you really wouldn't use. I wouldn't use a rotary for that. I would lay them all out.
yeah,
Take some cardboard, cut out my squares or rectangles. Uh, Save that cutout as a template or a tool layer, and that would be your jig. And then you should be able to, with reference points on that jig, or even just using the jig itself, put it back in and replicate. But yeah,
Yeah,
we do
I
have
use
other trainings
PDFs
too.
instead of cardboard, but
We do have other trainings. We have specialized trainings where you can pay $100 and we can discuss anything you want for an hour ish plus.
George, I don't have any recommendations on the DeWalt. But yeah, an average of 500 to 800 is probably a relatively normal amount
Yeah, I had when I
for that
first started
size.
out, I had a DeWalt and it was great. I think I actually finally ended up giving it away when I had to put this large compressor in. But any of the ones from Lowe's, Home Depot, Cobalt, or um, Craftsman, they're all going to be made by somebody else.
The rebrands.
Yeah, they're rebrands, and you're probably just going to want to check the reviews and also the decibel rating. Um, Otherwise, they're all the same.
If only Apple made compressors, huh?
yes.
Sign me up. $3,000.
I can control it from my phone.
Yeah, you sold.
Oh, wouldn't that be nice? God help me.
Well, hello, everybody.
Hi,
Hey,
Danny.
Danny.
Kitchen roof rack.
What have you been up to, Danny?
You get that big
Uh,
printer yet, Danny?
I'm just staying cool. I'm staying cool.
Exactly.
It's been major here. Still trying to justify the other printer, but other than that, that's about it. What's happening in Kentucky?
Nothing. Finally found a project that justified buying that printer.
Okay.
I got a customer that wants a Tristan to design a like a tray for some marine battery or something to sit in, and it's going to take it. I mean, it's so big, it's going to take two build plates and putting it together.
Ooh. Ooh.
Okay, so Nova Plus with the new 80-watt tube, built to accommodate the frame of the other Nova Plus machines. Yeah, it's the same machine. They're just putting a larger tube in it. If that's your
Yeah, I think they upsized the tube box. Not 100%, but from the 60 watt to the 80 watt, like it's a little bit deeper, I guess. I know on
Yeah,
my 60 watt, if the fan's in the wrong spot, it will hit the tube.
it sticks out a little bit for you.
You got one, Loco?
Yeah, it's about a 2-inch bump out on the back for the tube case for the 80 watt.
That's not bad.
Mm-mm. No, not like the tube on a 24 or a 35.
Exactly.
it just adds a
But then
little
you
bit
have
more.
to have, don't you have to have more room behind that before your wall because of the fans and stuff?
probably a little bit more clearance, just so you have good intake and outflow.
A lot of times these RF tubes, they don't get very long, but they start getting fat. All their fan cooling and stuff. Unlike the glass tubes that basically go up in length proportional with wattage. And the suckers are heavy too.
Tommy, have you lasered much walnut?
Yeah. I mean, we do cherry and walnut all the time.
Is walnut pretty good to work with?
Yes.
It gives a nice engrave, but it doesn't give a dark engrave like you would expect it. Like the contrast on cherry or
Yeah.
white oak
Well,
is amazing.
it's only because the walnut's already dark, and then when you apply finish, it gets darker. So the engraving doesn't necessarily stand out as much, but it still looks great. It cuts great. There you go.
There you go.
We did find that if we use the settings for white oak, that
Mhm.
it gives the walnut a darker engrave.
It works really good with the UV.
That was going to be my next thing. Was that with the UV, it looks fantastic. Yeah.
I love that little UV. It's such a fun little laser.
Welcome, Jessica. If you got a question, either raise your hand, take yourself off mute, and just pipe up. This is kind of a,
Free for all.
yes, today is a free for all. Very,
Well, I was able to get a hold of some walnut. I got 500 board feet at $1 a foot. But
Ooh.
it's good. It's 5/4 stuff, and I'm getting it kiln dried, so it'll be a little while.
Fantastic.
It's really good.
If you're, depending on what you're doing with it. So walnut compared to walnut sapwood cuts relatively easy. Heartwood cuts relatively easy. Both engrave fine. I'm kind of partial to the walnut because you start getting that grayish white sapwood, and then it leads into purples and blues and different colors right before it hits the heartwood. So as you start looking at that, once you plane it off after it's kiln dried, you're gonna see all kinds of colors if they build it correctly.
I've been fortunate to run into a man that cuts hardwood, and he cuts cross ties for railroad. And the off slabs that he has, he's cutting 1.25 inches thick for me so that I can get them to 1 inch. And he uses oak and hickory, and those are really good. But I didn't realize that poplar is a hardwood, and I would have never.
Anything with a leaf is a hardwood. Anything with a needle is softwood.
Okay.
That when you start talking about lumber, that's the determining factor. Does it have a leaf or a needle? Pine, spruces, cedars, they have needles, so they're all softwoods. Even basswood, as soft as basswood is, it is still labeled as a hardwood.
Okay.
You just have to look at that Jenka scale and see where it lies on basswood's really down low because it doesn't take much to dent the wood fibers, where you go to the exact opposite. Lignum vitae is probably one of the hardest, and you can barely work with it.
Well, I've been making wedding things where I have initial and their wedding date and their name, and I've established it on like the whiskey barrel lids.
Mm-hmm.
But it's cheaper for me to get my lumber here and glue it, and then it's stable too than to get the whiskey barrels. But that seems to be a little bit of a niche right now.
Good. The more people that glue, I hate bourbon barrels.
Danny, I would say the whiskey barrels and also the walnut, anything like that, like even bamboo, run that score after you engrave to really offset the edge.
Yes, yes.
Because there's anything that doesn't have a lot of contrast, that little score line does wonders.
Even on walnut, that's one of the things that we do, because we're running the same settings as the oak, and it really helps with the walnut too.
That's the one thing I haven't tried. We've been doing it on the fiber. Is okay? You do a bulk or a deep engraving, and then a line. And you suggested CeeLo to do the score first to see if you could separate that heat. I have yet to try it on the UV to see what it does. And granted, the UV comes out clean anyway, but just to see what that effect would be.
I've run the white oak is my barrel. That's just happened to have white oak, but I'm having a more buildup. Do I need to use a little bit more air to that? Because I'm getting a little bit of, I have to, when I clean up my lens, I'm getting a little bit in the tube and stuff, char.
I'd add a little bit more air, and welcome to white oak with cleaning your nozzle tip more often.
Yeah.
Usually when I'm engraving a full barrel lid that can take 45 minutes to an hour, I have to clean the nozzle off. I don't get any of the residue or the gunk or the debris inside the nozzle or anything, but definitely there's buildup on the outside of that nozzle. So if I'm having to do several barrel lids in a row, pretty much after each one, I go ahead and wipe it down to get some of that gunk off, to make sure that it doesn't, close up or fall on to the barrel lid or whatever, and cause imperfections in the engrave.
We had that the other day. We had enough junk on it that we couldn't see the red dot.
Yeah, that was great.
Ooh, ooh. But I will say one thing, all our preparation we did before we got our laser, I put my fan switch in where it ends up being the back of my laser, and it's a pain to remember that. So now I've got to fix a sign reminding me before I go out to cut the fan off. But I've left the fan on for a weekend or two. It's
Don't feel bad, Danny. I got to make a sign for my CNC router that says adjust the spindle RPMs, because mine I have to manually do it on the controller. And I keep, I switched one out and went, okay, it doesn't sound right. Oh, I'm at 11,000, need to be at 18,000 RPMs. So I need to make my own signs as well. I'm with you.
You can also add that in Lightburn, so that every time you go to run a job, it'll come up with, did you turn the fan on? It won't help you at the end, but it helps you in the beginning of the job thing. I did that for the high school with a list of things to make sure that they're doing everything that they need to do, since they're not dealing with the stuff, for 45 minutes, maybe once a day, but then they're going to forget everything over this summer break. So, I built that in on both computers for them. I've got my spy on the wall reminds me to turn on my air compressor and turn off my air compressor. Because same thing. Yeah, I will either forget to turn it on or forget to turn it off. And the neighbors don't want to hear that, in the middle of the night, the air compressor kicking back on.
well, Chris can tell you, my neighbors are not going to say anything. All they are is sheep.
There you go. Yes.
They're
Yes.
not complaining. How's Chris Myers doing?
Oh, good. That dog will talk to you on the way in, though.
And Chris Lowe, what's happening in Florida?
Oh, I'm trying to get up by you. Are you in Tennessee too?
Coming
No?
up for a wrestling camp again this year?
No, my son's done. He's out of school.
Okay.
Where are you at again?
In Winston-Salem area, Winston-Salem, Greensboro.
Okay.
We were about an hour and a half from you when you were in Boone.
Okay. Yeah, we're looking to move to Tennessee possibly. So
Oh, get the Chris boys together.
Well, I'm gonna
we'll
have
be,
to find someplace to move. Both of them this close to me. I gotta go somewhere north.
I want to go north just because it's getting to be too hot in Kentucky.
Are you going to go to Virginia?
No, it's actually hotter in Virginia.
And
Oh,
and
so are
I'm
you in Kentucky?
Yes, we are.
Part.
We are up at an hour south of Louisville. We're right outside of Fort Knox and E-Town.
I grew up around there. I'm in Lawrenceburg now.
Oh, okay, nice.
you've got it. You just got your UV.
I did. Yeah.
Okay. You have any? I mean, I know you've got training scheduled for tomorrow. I know. I think I commented on the Facebook. Make
Yeah,
sure
I
you look.
just saw that. I took a nap. My head was ready to explode, so I kind of just checked out for a little bit.
With the weather fronts coming
Understand
in, I literally feel you.
Get your 9-point done to help that lens. Do the lens calibration, and then tomorrow's training will be great. To be honest with you.
Yeah, I just have to. I said somebody just needs to talk to me like I'm an idiot. Like I've got my Nova figured out. I've had it for a few years. Like that part's great. I don't really have too many issues. I mean, I can always improve things, of course. But just trying to figure. I was like, oh my gosh, how do you even send a file to this thing? There's no like file controller, and all these different things. So
It is different. Yeah.
It is definitely a little bit different. Lightburn pretty much is the same as far as design wise. With the UV, you now deal with you're used to speed and power. Now you add frequency and Q pulse.
yes.
But the UV is, and Chris CeeLo can elaborate a little bit more. The Q pulse is limited on your actual frequencies. So, and I don't have the little chart sitting in front of me. I engraved it. Oh no, actually I do. See, notes are wonderful things. I made a little business card with all the frequencies and the Q pulses, so that
Yeah.
like 20 kilohertz, you only have like 1 to 50 Q pulse limits. So as you go up in frequency in kilohertz, then your bandwidth of Q pulse, for lack of better words,
drops. It's supposed to be set in Lightburn. They were supposed to put limitations on the Q pulse. But are you running a laptop to it?
Yes.
Okay, so make sure that your sleep or your screensaver, because that'll stop any file being buffered over to the machine.
Okay.
Well, you'll be engraving something, and your screen will stop, and maybe a minute later, the machine will stop too. So
Okay.
it's not a pleasant feeling.
It'll
When you what just happened?
it'll
So-
pick right back up once you bring it back to life. But in case it doesn't, you don't want
You find that with the UV, so like I said today, all I've done was there was I guess it was an image of the Great Wall of China that I did, on a business card, which on the screen looked really awesome, had multi kind of shades of gray on it. I did it today. You can see it's basically just all one color. I brought it in directly from the USB drive and just hit play basically because I wanted to see it do something. And it took a little while, and so I thought, I don't know if this is a machine that you can use for like mass production, if that makes sense. Like I can knock out like slate coasters in 4 or 5 minutes each. And of course I can lay them out. I've got a Nova 35, so I can lay them out and do several at a time. But I was like, this feels like it actually takes a while. Is that the case with most things on the UV, or?
It'll depend. I just finished up a large order for wallets and journals, and they were fast. It was maybe 30 seconds for the wallets and maybe a minute for the journals.
Okay.
It'll depend on the material for sure. Glass, if you want depth out of glass, it takes a minute.
Mhm.
If you want that
Rotary,
sandblasted look,
a
it takes
rotary's going to take a hot minute.
rotary, and that's not our machine. It's more of the board that all of these machines run off of. It just is not. It's not fun. But if you follow the videos, it'll help.
Okay.
I've done engraving on what not serving platters, like the cake server and stuff like that for weddings, and you're only talking about a couple minutes for an engrave.
Yeah.
Okay.
To
We've
throw.
done knives and stuff literally in like 30 seconds, and people are like, "It's done already," and we're like, "Yeah, here you go."
That's cool. Yeah, like I said, I don't have any idea what any of these settings mean. Like, I see that there's Q pulse and there's all this stuff. I'm like, I don't know what any of that really means, and so I've got to get, get all that figured out and read. I've been trying to
And
watch videos and read, and it's just kind of
the material library that we built for that is pretty extensive. So you take advantage of that, and then if it's not working or it doesn't seem like it's working, it's probably focus. It is very, very dependent on focus, especially glass. It's not the same focus as regular stuff for some reason. It seems like it varies just a little bit.
Okay.
Oh,
Now mine came with the chuck instead of a rotary, which I have a chuck I've never used for the Nova,
Mhm.
but rotary wasn't even an option, I don't think, for this. It was just a chuck, the little whatever it's called.
That's the best solution for
Okay.
this machine. Yeah.
I still use the low roller on certain things, as well as the Talon. So
Setup for the low roller is awkward, and we had our son 3D print some blocks that that expand the bed,
extend that a little bit.
level things a little bit better when we're trying to use the low roller instead of just the Talon. Um,
It is
Okay.
I'll tell you, it's a fantastic machine. I don't know what we ever did without the UV. And at one point in time, the UV was used almost every day. So
It opens up doors for some things that you just can't touch on the CO2 laser. Like somebody brings you Apple headphones. Well, with the UV, you can easily mark them. So some of your plastics, Chris, you do a lot of PLA and other stuff with it. So it's really good for a lot of things that you just can't touch with the CO2 laser.
yeah,
we
so
just do a
do we
$300
with
or
the
$400 stethoscope.
My brother's a doctor. He would like that if I could
It-
engrave his stuff, I'm
it's
sure.
a battery powered
what was the brand?
Littman stethoscope, and
Yeah,
our neighbor said,
the neighbor
"Engrave
brought him
this."
over,
Oh, God.
and I about died until that thing was done and back in her hands and back in the box because I was like, oh my gosh, if we mess this up, this is bad.
Yeah, it's so nerve-wracking when somebody's like, "Hey, can you engrave the butt of my gun?" And I'm like, "Yes, but I can't replace it very easily because, sometimes things happen. Something
Yeah,
sticks or the power goes out or, And so I'm always so like scared to do expensive items
yeah,
for people.
And that's, in the UV, once you learn the settings and you realize and start getting comfortable with it, we're putting marks on expensive blades or things, and you can't feel it. It marks, it changed the colors, it's permanent, and it's not, you didn't dig away any of the material like you would say with a fiber.
Yeah.
So
so
I'd
then
highly suggest
you're
a
not creating food
UPS.
safety problems, with depth removal or anything when you're just marking it.
What you got, Myers?
So a UPS. So go ahead and put your computer, if it's not a laptop, and the machine on a UPS. That way you can buffer any kind of power outages. The roar is not going to take a lot of power, so with a decent sized UPS, you will finish that project and not ruin it. You can get a large enough one for your Nova 35 as well. I've got one that's it's the Weekatel or whatever P5000. It'll output 220. I ran my house on it last week a little bit, kept my refrigerator running for over 24 hours. So it's a pretty good, substantial thing. But I can run my Nova 51 Plus on it as well, my Bolt, my Auroras. It just gives me that buffer because we get a lot of brownouts or rolling blackouts or just power blips, which can be a real pain. Same thing for like my 3D printers and my vinyl printer and my UV printer. Keeping them powered up is paramount.
We have a whole house generator, but there's always that second of like when something kicks out, that's got to kick on. Like it's a gas
Yeah.
powered house, and then we have the gateway, the Tesla gateway now. But I just don't know, like,
Is that a battery backup?
yeah.
Yeah, so if it's in line where your power is feeding the gateway and then it's actually feeding actively, then you should be okay. I mean,
I think so.
yeah. As long as it's not
We'll
like
see.
your generator that has to kick in because that delay time is already lost. But
Yeah.
the UPSs typically are already feeding and then they lose your incoming power and then they start to alert you.
And we have our internet and then big things like refrigerator and things like that running through the gateway so that there's never a disrupt or should not ever be a disruption. We've not had a chance to actually test that yet, so we'll see.
But yeah, that's a good setup.
I'm getting the ideas. Exactly.
Well, I mean, it's nice to have power. It sucks when we lose power. You don't realize how much we need it, especially in this heat right now. It would be miserable.
And I guess we're in one of those fortunate spots where we're near, I don't know, we're near something. So we very rarely lose power here.
Or when we do, it's not that long. So we had, what was it? A couple of years ago at this point, we had the power go out. And I'm looking at the app when it says it's going to get restored and whatever. And I'm texting with the neighbor and I'm like, yeah, it says it'll be back on in 3 hours. And she's like, no, that says 3 days. And I was like, wait, what? And Tommy literally hopped in the truck, drove to the store, bought a generator, got home, got everything hooked up, and the power came back on.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Yeah, when we did our whole house generator, we've lived in this house 17 years, I think. And of course, there was the ice storm even before that, and we were without power for 2 weeks. But in this house, I think we were out for a day or two, something like that. We were like, that kind of sucks. Like, if this is going to be something that happens, let's get a generator. We've really not hardly lost power since then. Like, I think we've only had to run the generator maybe for a couple hours total since then. I'm like, of course, we don't lose it as much as we used to.
Oh
I
yeah.
think us being off of a fairly main road for being
Mhm.
out in the country helps with that. I know there's other parts of the county that really, they can be out for quite a while, and thankfully we're not.
I'm from Breckenridge County. I know all about that.
Yeah,
Oh Lord. Yeah. Okay.
yeah, we're between Rhineyville and Flaherty, so
Yeah. Mhm.
What other
Small world.
questions that you got? I mean, we've got about 15 more minutes or so. So use this opportunity. You're going to get more tomorrow, so might as well.
I don't even know what I don't know, I guess is the thing. Like I just I'm trying to read through things and I don't know. I'm just trying to figure out how to do something. Like somebody just brought me some metal frames. Or like, you can do this. I was like, probably in a few days, after I get this figured out.
So the key that I found with the Galvos is obviously making it work. Your settings, your focus, but where you're used to your Nova having a massive bed, your work area is designated by the size of your lens. So if you got the lens that came with it, it should be what, the f160 lens or
I've
the
got the
smaller of the lens.
160, and then I bought the 210 and the 290.
Okay. Keep forgetting we even have the middle one. I've had the Aurora long enough that it's just, I only have 2 lenses with it. So
Well, so I did do the
the
setting thing in Lightburn where so when I pick devices, I'm picking the 160 or I'm picking the 210 or the 290 so that I could put all the, the core files in with each single one and not have to,
so that
I guess,
nine
worry about
point
what I'm printing.
the 9 point that I suggested that you will do that
Yeah.
with every lens. It replaces your
Okay.
core file, so that you delete your
Oh,
core file and you are manually doing it.
okay.
And I promise you, if I can figure it out, anybody can. I am not the
Okay.
sharpest tool in the shed. After 20 years in the Army and 28 running into burning buildings, I, I'm not all there. And if I can figure out how to do it quick and simple, anybody really can. So you'll do that on every lens.
Okay.
Um, some people there's the program for the autofocus that you can dial in your readjusting your autofocus per your lens. I would just tell you to cut focal sticks and keep your autofocus one. I know Myers, you like the autofocus, don't you?
Yeah. Yeah, but I mean, for the rural light, I don't have that opportunity, so made your own sticks. But for the others, yeah, I like autofocus.
And I use autofocus on the lens that it came with, and I manual focus everything else. That's
Yeah.
just me.
I cut focal sticks in our Nova for him.
Does the
You
UV, so the UV, it's only marking, like there's never such thing as cutting anything, correct?
No,
know,
you can cut material with it.
Okay.
so and this is what I giggle about. Because Lois makes earrings, we use solid ebony. So what, 2 mil, 3 mil ebony,
It's closer to
and
two.
the none of the Novas want to cut the ebony at 2 millimeters thick. CeeLo, you tried it on the bolt, didn't you? When we sent some down to you and struggled.
Yep.
The
I see
UV
what
cut
you're cutting it.
beautifully. Takes
Okay.
like 30 some passes. When you talk about when you watch the light go around, it's only a couple of minutes to cut the 2 mil ebony leather.
And I don't do a ton of that, but I have certain earring designs that I like to use the ebony for. So, pretty much everything else I am cutting over in the Novas, but specifically for that wood species and those designs, we are cutting those over in the UV, and it's so nice having that capability, that other machine that can do just about any material on this earth is fantastic.
Cut and engrave leather.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, I was gonna ask because like leatherette, I've got like some. It's probably more like a PVC leatherette, something I picked up at Hobby Lobby years ago, which I can technically cut in the CO2, and then I learned I was not supposed to do that, and so I haven't, and I just use like a Cricut if I'm gonna do it, which takes forever. But the UV could do that,
You still have
or is
all,
that still kind of
yeah. Anything that you're off gassing the PVC, burning it, that would be something to watch
okay? That's
for.
kind of what I thought, but I thought, well, I'd ask.
Yeah, we're cutting actual, sides of cow, actual real
Okay.
the non-chrome tan stuff. Um
And leather. But with the cold marking, we're able to engrave galvanized material. And the galvanizing process, when it's heated, it releases toxic, so you shouldn't really breathe it when you're welding it or cutting it. But the UV will put a beautiful black mark on it.
Okay.
And you mentioned Hobby Lobby, I call them the stupid little damn tags
no,
that
I
are
got those from
galvanized.
Dollar Tree.
Oh, did you? Okay.
Yeah, those are
Um,
Dollar Tree.
they're galvanized. They will put a beautiful black mark on it. All kinds of plastics, glass, acrylic. like black shiny acrylic, you'll be able to get different shades out of it. I've gotten almost a white to grays to just another different shade of shiny black, and everything kind of in between.
Yeah, I'm excited about some of that.
Yeah, I know I've got some here.
Oh crap! That's what happens when you sit too damn long. So the other nice thing while he's looking for that is because of the way the focus is for the Galvos, and you can just move and slide and hit the autofocus. If you look, that's 3 layers. On a Nova, you'd never be able to engrave that.
Right.
Not once it's put together.
It's all put together. That was all done on the UV.
Oh, wow.
Just like that, all we did was refocus and adjust every time we had to do them.
That's nice.
And then that's the color you can pull from black shiny acrylic with the right settings.
Yeah, so this was all those different colors were done on the UV.
And how long did that take? Because I know, so that requires it to go over it a couple of different times. And
Yeah, it's all because of the different layers. Yeah.
Mhm.
I don't even remember, but it was probably a long time. But to impress people, you're not making money with this. You're doing it.
Sure, sure. It looks cool.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But that would be on.
Oh, wow. That's awesome.
But just like on the Nova, where you have your sliding scale, where you can get the same result at 1,000 millimeters per second as you can at 400, you're just going to have to find the sweet spot that makes it productive, as opposed to you want the result, but you also want the productive side of it.
Right. Yeah, there's
wish
probably
we-
still a lot I can learn on the Nova too when it comes to some of that, because I've got my settings for the things that I do over and over, and then like I cannot get what I feel like is a good photo engrave. I just think it looks like a charred mess, and it doesn't matter how many different things I've done.
So Chris Lacasio Silo is the photo guy. And you
Mhm.
can actually sign up through Thunder and do a 1-hour class with him. And he will
Okay.
teach you everything you need to know about doing photos.
Let's not
There you
slow
go.
his head. It's already big enough as it is. He doesn't. Muted.
I think this was on the UV as well, in this ABS plastic, like just crappy leftover plastic. And
So cool.
yeah, got all different tones. Yeah, the UV is a really cool machine.
I'm excited.
That was probably one of the best decisions we ever made when Thunder came out with that one, is to
Yeah.
jump on that.
Good to know.
So that would be like I said, my suggestion for you before tomorrow is go through the videos and do the 9-point. That way we're a little bit more productive and you're more accurate. So, in I guess in the grand scheme of things, when you start projecting like a rectangle for an engrave through a round lens, it's going to be bulged out or pinched in the middle or shifted and twisted. That correction is fixing that. So when you project a rectangle, you're projecting the exact rectangle that you're wanting.
Okay. I'll try to get that done tonight. I'm actually coming over to Litchfield in the morning. I've got to pick up kids from camp. So I'm going to try to get all that done tonight, because as soon as I get home tomorrow, I'll be on here.
No worries at all. Oh, well, as we come to a close, any other questions? As always, Danny, it's wonderful to see you. George, glad you made it. Jessica, welcome. We do this every other week.
Yeah, I'll have to remember this.
Yep, Sam's still here.
Yeah, I was getting to you, Sam. I have not forgotten about you, I promise.
I heard Mrs. Grumpy call me out, so I'm not going to disregard her, and I've got to say hello to her, or
That's
I might fall
absolutely-
out of favor with you as well. So come on.
Never, never.
It is all good. So yeah, I hope we've answered your questions or taking care of any of that. So, and I'm going to do this before I forget.